Hello, everyone, and welcome to RT Spectra. My name is Arun Sudhaman. I'm editor-in-chief at PRovoke Media and very happy to be joined today by Helena Mouse, who's CEO at Archetype. Helena, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Welcome from San Francisco, I believe, where it looks very festive for you. It's nice to see. Yeah, it looks very nice.
Thank you.
We're going to have a chat this morning, this evening, wherever you are in the world when you watch this. We're going to have a chat about all of the things that have changed, I guess, this year and how that has impacted the way agencies operate and the way they will operate, perhaps, in the
Yeah.
future. Um, and it's quite a big topic, obviously, because there have been a number of interesting developments this year that I think we're all painfully aware of.
Yeah.
So I wondered if I could start by just asking you to maybe briefly summarize the key trends that you have seen impacting PR firms in 2020.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be delighted to share my perspective on it. It has certainly been quite a year. And I think so many things happened that none of us could have ever anticipated. That is a ridiculous understatement. But I think, you know, I try to find gratitude in what a crazy year this has been. And one of the places where I find gratitude is that I think we've learned so much. We've learned so much about ourselves. We've learned so much about what it means to work with colleagues, in different parts of the world, and just it's been an incredible journey this year. And so I am grateful for all of the learning that we've had. I think one of the things that has really stood out to me as we move through this period in time is that there's been almost a reckoning that has happened around the kinds of clients that our people want to work with. I think part of that is driven by the fact that we're all moving for the first time in our lives. We're all moving through something together at the same time as humanity, right? This is something that we're all experiencing together, and it has encouraged so many people, I think, to question what they're doing with their lives and why they've made the choices that they've made, and what's missing, or what needs to be changed. So I think we've all done that in ways big and small. Everyone around the world has had a moment, I think, of reflection, or maybe many months of reflection in this year. So I think there has been this real reckoning around the kinds of companies that people want to work with. And for us, as we think about our most important asset, that is our talent, the people who work at the firm, we want to make sure that we are giving them opportunities to work on behalf of companies that they truly believe in. So that's been a big trend, I think, just this upheaval really unearthing so clearly that mission-driven companies really are the future. Because if you look at the people who are coming into the workforce today, this is so critical to them. It used to be, you wanted to work with the company that had, the most profitable quarter for their shareholders, right? That would drive a decision around whether or not that was a company that you wanted to work with. Those days are long gone, and now we're really thinking much more about what does this company believe in? What do they stand for in the world? So I think having that as almost a true north for us as an agency, seeking out companies that really care about their impact on society and on the world, and really this giant shift toward mission-driven organizations. I believe, my prediction is, the most important companies being created today are mission-driven organizations, and those are the companies that are going to win in this kind of next era. And so that's been a big trend that we've seen. and the industry as a whole, and certainly for us as an agency, something, a direction we were already headed, and we feel really validated by that, being very thoughtful about the companies with whom we work. So I'd say that is one big one. It's a place we probably would have gotten to anyway, just in the clarity around that. But COVID has really kind of sped that process up for us. I think another big trend that we're seeing is a real recognition from companies that one of their most important constituencies is their people, right? Especially when you think about tech companies, tech talent is their greatest asset, and their most valuable thing in the entire company. And so attracting and retaining great talent, just like it is for us, is critically important to them. So we're seeing a big trend, and we're hoping to kind of help that trend keep going, around companies who want to ensure that they're bringing their staff along on the journey with them, right? So that they're going to their people whenever they can before they go out to market with news, or bringing people into the fold when things are changing in a way that perhaps we haven't in the past. And there's become an expectation that will happen. And when a company doesn't do that, it's disappointing, right? And I think when you see companies where there's leaking happening and a lot of sort of negative news cycles that are, sort of off the record employees, I mean, that is a real warning sign that there's something happening from a cultural standpoint that isn't working well for that company. I think there's some really interesting case studies of like very important companies going through very significant acquisitions where the news never leaked. And then you see other companies brand names that we all know, where there's a leak every day about something. And I think that's really indicative of the lack of trust maybe that is happening inside of that culture. So we want to really work with companies to ensure that there's that level of trust with their employee base. And then I think it's something that's been going on for many years, but is getting kind of blurrier and blurrier, is really the dividing line between communications and marketing. And what are each of those things? And are they really two different things? And I think no one, I think the answer is, frustratingly, it depends, right? It depends on the company. It depends on the executive team and what they believe in. It depends on the talent that you have within the organization. It depends on what customer you're trying to reach. But there certainly is not a one size fits all, and this person shall report to this person who reports to that person. It really has to be down to the individual company and what they need. And I think budget shifts follow that as well, right? You can tell a lot about a company and what they believe in when you see what they spend money on. And if is it big flashing advertising? Is it really working very closely with their customers? I think it just reveals a lot about the company and what they believe in, watching how those budgets flow. And then I guess the last thing I would say is I think that there is a strong movement that has been, again, afoot for a couple of years, but that we're seeing spelled out very clearly now, where companies are looking for quality over ease of use when it comes to their agency partner. There used to be a world in which there were these kind of giant global remits, and agencies would respond to that with sort of this like, here's our global one size fits all approach. I think modern companies don't think that way. They want to work with the best possible partner in every market that matters to them. And that's very much, a big reason for when we created Archetype, was really in response to that, which is how do we create more of a collective of incredibly high quality teams finely tuned to their local markets versus the sort of global monolith. So that's been an important trend for us, certainly.
Thank you. It's very interesting. A lot of trends you've mentioned there. We'll perhaps talk about several of them over the next half an hour. But let's start with your comments on the increasing popularity, let's call it, of mission-driven companies. Now, this is something I think that really plays to the strengths of the public relations industry, given given our industry's focus on things like purpose and multiple stakeholders and so forth. Do you think there's been a similar reckoning on the client side, where companies are also reconsidering the types of agencies they work with?
I hope so. That would be my answer. I hope so. And I think, like attracts like, as it were. And I think, we are really striving as Archetype to live our values every day, and we're really proud of them. And so we talk to clients and prospective clients about them, and we demonstrate those values in ways big and small. And I hope that this is something that companies will look at. I think that there is, certainly if they're not doing that now, they will be in the future. So this is inevitable, that people will be looking at their vendors, quote unquote, and making sure that those partners align with the company's values. Investors, shareholders are looking at this much more closely than they ever have before, which I think is a very positive trend, because if shareholders care about it, boards care about it. If boards care about it, executive teams care about it. If executive teams care about it, so do the people who are out there, helping those companies achieve success every day. So yes, they certainly should be. And I think we're getting asked more and more questions, which I love, about our values, and about how we live them. So I think that's wonderful. Like, keep our feet to the fire, right? I think just for us as an industry, we need to make sure that we're living up to what's possible in terms of equity, and sustainability, and all of those ways that we impact the world.
One of the things we've seen this year, quite an encouraging trend, has been, as you put it, the focus that companies have placed on, other factors beyond just selling. We've seen them having to, for example, reassure their staff and inspire their customers and collaborate with government and so on.
Right.
And typically these kinds of softer, let's call them softer factors, are seen as being in tension with the demands or the requirements to make profit on a quarterly basis.
Yes.
Do you feel like the lessons companies have learned this year in terms of how they contribute to society and how important that is will persist beyond this year? Or do you feel that maybe the economic pressure will force them to once again prioritize, the kind of short-term race for profitability?
Yeah. Look, I think yes. I think it's going to be both. I think shareholders demand returns, right? And so you need to be able to deliver those returns in order to invest in your business in the way that you think is going to help you to have a positive impact in the world, right? So you sort of can't have that you can't have a mission-driven organization that doesn't have the funding to support those programs. So yes, certainly we need to balance shareholder needs. I do think that there has been this awakening around what are the things that matter. I think some people are thinking about them in a more short-term fashion, but my hope is that that we will be able to demonstrate, not we as an agency, but like we as an industry will be able to demonstrate very clearly that the most successful companies are successful for a reason, because they are doing good in the world and people are attracted to them. We talk internally a lot about this concept of magnetic brands, right? A brand that draws to it the kind of talent that it seeks, the kinds of shareholders that truly believe in it, the kinds of partnerships that they deserve. So I think in order to be a truly magnetic brand, you can't be magnetic and also repulsive at the same time, right? So I think we'll see more companies caring about ensuring that they're not upsetting people, for lack of a better term. I wish I had a more clever way of saying that, but I think we've seen some companies really misstep. And customers have spoken out, right? We've seen, when delete Uber was a big trend. I mean, that was for a reason. It was because they were not demonstrating values as a leadership team that people believe in, and because of social media, because the speed with which these kinds of stories are shared, I think we won't forget that video of Travis in the back of an Uber berating the driver, right? And that really changed people's mind about that brand. And Dara, I think, has done an amazing job of rebuilding equity in that brand and in that company. And I think you're seeing a lot of the very successful chief executives focusing a lot of time on that and on demonstrating, that this is a company that believes in the right things, and that's going to treat its employees and its customers in a way that aligns with that. And those are going to be the companies that win in the long run.
So that's an interesting segue, actually, to my next question I wanted to ask you, because one of the biggest changes I think we have seen this year is in leadership and is in employee engagement, because of for all of the reasons we're aware of. What have you learned in terms of managing virtual, maybe hybrid agencies this year, and how hard has it been to kind of sustain and build the company culture that is so crucial to successful agencies?
Yes, absolutely. I people often ask me, how, what are you trying to achieve as an agency, right? Like how will you know when you're successful? And I think that they're waiting for a response from me that's like, we'll be X $100 million in revenue, X 100 people around the world in X cities. I think they're looking for those kinds of stats back as the answer to that question. But I always say the same thing, which is I will know that we're a successful company when people say it's the best place I ever worked. And that's really what we're after. We want this company to be the best experience that our employees have ever had. And they will take that with them as they move on in their careers. And they will remember this time and the incredible colleagues that they worked alongside, and we will stay connected for that reason. So that, to me, that is the marker of success. And people never say it's the best job I ever had, but I hated all the people. It's the best job you ever had because you truly love your colleagues, and it doesn't matter, what the company is called. Frankly, it doesn't matter what your job description is. Are you learning? Are you growing? Are you feeling supported? I think that is what really matters. And I think culture is everything. It's everything to us. We're very clear on what our product is. Our product is people's time. That is what we sell. And so in order to have the best possible product, we need to have the best possible people. And you can only do that when you have a culture that is as great as they are. And I think this period that we've gone through with quarantine, and the incredible pressure that people have been under has been so eye-opening. And I think we've seen many agencies kind of go into this moment in time from a position of strength in terms of their culture, which has actually gotten stronger through this period, and other agencies who kind of entered into this period of time from a position of weakness from a cultural standpoint, and it has devolved. So this has been a real pressure test, I think, this time period on culture, and I'm really proud to see how our people have showed up for each other. Kindness is one of our core values at Archetype. And when we say that, we're really talking about the concept of lifting other people up and asking yourself, what I do today to help someone else be successful. And I think that concept, which our people are have embraced so beautifully, and they live it every day, that has made all the difference in the world to the individuals who are the recipients of those small moments of kindness, because it's been hard, right? We're all living this insane life. We used to have this whole thing that people called work-life balance, as if there were two sides of your life that you needed to seek to balance, right? There was like your private life and your professional life. Well, guess what? Like there never were two parts of your life. You have one life. And so, the concept of work-life balance is when you really think about it, it's ridiculous. Now the only difference now is that like the curtain has been drawn back and you are literally sitting here with me, in my dining room. And there isn't that kind of artificial divide between our work lives and our professional lives. All along, it was that way. It was always one life. But I think there's something sort of beautiful in that we can be more authentically ourselves now. We have real permission to, to pick up the baby if the baby is crying, or let the dog out, or, care for a parent who lives with us. And our colleagues understand that they need to allow us to do that. And you know what? They would have all along. It never would have been a question 3 years ago. But I think people were like, oh, I can't do that right now because right now is my work life part of my day. And that has really dissolved. And so I think that's been very healthy. And I hope that part of the learning that we've had this year stays with us, and so that we can be more sympathetic and more empathetic with each other, and forget this whole idea of the separation, and allow people to live their lives all day long, every day, and take that phone call from your child who isn't feeling well at school and never feel guilty about that, right? I hope that we remember those lessons and keep those with us.
Is there a concern at all that there's in these kind of remote working models, which I think we are aware will persist beyond this year? Is there a concern that there's too much work and not enough life? And are there kind of specific measures you can take to, I guess, guard against that?
Yes, boy, if someone has the secret handbook on how to do that well, I would certainly love to see it. I think it's been really, really hard, right? Because you don't have the clear dividers in your day, right? Now I'm leaving to go take the subway to go to the office, right? It was like this clear demarcation in the morning. And the same thing at the end of the day, like now I'm getting in my car to drive home. That was a clear demarcation, and there aren't those anymore. And so we sort of have to force ourselves to start and stop, in ways that maybe need to be trained. We need to train ourselves to be done with the day, and to try to do context switching in a significant way, as opposed to what we're doing right now, which is like back and forth all day. And it's exhausting. And I think, countless Zoom calls are exhausting. They wear us out because it's like all of the pressure of interpersonal interaction and none of the reward of that interaction. So we need to be sort of extra loving to each other. We rely on Slack a lot. They're an incredible company that we have the honor of working with as a client. And we use Slack a lot in the office. And there is a lightness of touch in Slack that has been very helpful, emoji responses, and you sort of get a better sense of how people are feeling about things than you might, just over email and conference calls. So that has been very helpful for us. I also will say, I think that the remote first workforce was an inevitability. It was going to be here. We just didn't know it was going to be here right now. It was, I thought it was like 5 years down the road, and here it is today. And so I think, again, the people who entered into this period, who have a nimble culture, had a much easier time of like hitting the ground running and making sure everyone was well taken care of. And so we feel very fortunate that we have built this really nimble culture. It's, we talk about ourselves as a startup at scale. We're only about a year and a half old as an agency, but we have 650 people around the world. But that I think has really served us well. Having that kind of startup mentality when we've had to change everything that we've done, that has helped us a lot, that flexibility. But we're really conscious that this time is hard for people. People are being teacher and caregiver all at the same time, while also trying to be a great professional, or they live alone and they feel isolated, and that is really, really tough on people. So we've put a big emphasis on mental health this year, and that is definitely something that will stay with us. I think there were some great lessons for us inside of this year. Again, in the spirit of gratitude for what has been a very challenging time, I think it really has opened our eyes around issues around mental health and how we must lean into those issues much more than maybe we would have been ready to historically, because it felt taboo. Right? You don't want to ask someone like, "Are you struggling?" in a professional context, but now we find that we do. We're much more open about it, and for me as a leader, I've tried to be really open with people as well and say, "Do you know what, guys? This has been a super hard week, and I'm just having a hard time." And just being honest, we have to give people permission to be their authentic selves.
Yeah, I think it's honestly one of the most encouraging things is to see that kind of humanity from leaders, and like you said, I do think it's important those lessons persist. You talked about the startup mentality, which is interesting to me because it hints at the kind of at a kind of agility and flexibility. How important do you think that has been in terms of what clients are looking for this year, and do you think that represents a significant change?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel so fortunate that some of the things that we were already leading with at Archetype have served us so well, and this is certainly one. So we have a concept that we use here at Archetype that we call freedom within a framework, which is really about ensuring that our teams around the world are able to execute against client needs in a way that works really well in that market for that client, but sort of at the same time they have a framework within which they operate that just ensures that our standards are equally high everywhere around the world. So that if you are working with us in Mumbai, your experience is going to be very different than when you're working with us in Sydney or in San Francisco, but there's a familiarity there in terms of the quality of the work, the quality of the strategy, and of the people. But we're going to execute in a way that works best in that market for that company. So I think that agility is absolutely critical. And this was, I was talking earlier about, I think gone are the days of the giant one size fits all corporate remits. And I think that we should be grateful for that, because I think, we really believe that client success is our success. That really, that is how we know as an agency that we're doing well, is when our clients are doing well. And this freedom within a framework allows us to make sure that we're doing what is best for that client, as opposed to what's best for us. We always lead with what is the right thing to do to help this company, client XYZ, achieve their business goals. And it doesn't matter, what kind of Archetype's opinion on things are. It matters what this company needs at this moment with this team in this market. And so that's been a really important concept for us, because I think it gives you that gives our team, we have really strong teams around the world, and I'm so proud of them. And I think this idea of empowering them to make the right decision for their client, as opposed to, let me check in with the mothership to make sure that this is okay. They have enough of a framework to understand that they can't go off the rails, but enough freedom where they can really execute for the client in a way that's maximally impactful.
This is a little different from the command and control kind of models that are typically favored by, the big global agency networks, let's say. Do you think those kinds of models are outdated now?
I think they might be, if I'm honest with you. I spent much of my career, about half of my career was on the client side. And so a lot of what I have tried to do with my team here at Archetype is really build the agency that we would have wanted to hire. And I worked with pretty much every giant global agency around the world at some point in my career. And I also worked with some truly spectacular independent local firms. And the difference was night and day in those variances. And so what we are really after with Archetype is how can you fit right in between those two, right? Where it's not a hodgepodge of all these different agencies, but it's also not this like, I don't know, impersonal sort of giant machine. I'm not trying to be rude, but that was my experience as a client. And I never felt like, I never had a partner that was one of the giant global brands who made me feel like my success was the most important part of the equation. I felt upsold, you know, or managed. I didn't feel like they cared about my business, if I'm honest. And so that is, I don't know, that I wouldn't want to work at that agency, I think, and I wouldn't want to hire that agency. And so we're really trying to be the agency that I would have dreamed of hiring. And it's trying to take the best of both of those worlds, right? Which is like global reach and insight from people around the world, but a much more bespoke client experience in each market.
It kind of comes back to what you said at the beginning of our conversation, where you have a collective, perhaps, of of local agencies rather than a strong, not say strong, but rather than a kind of dominant idea of a global network. I presume that's easier said than done, because if it was easy, I think everyone would be doing it. What role does technology play in making that a reality? Because presumably you need some sort of connective tissue. Do you feel like agencies, do you feel there is a role for technology here? And is it perhaps something that agencies could get better in terms of adoption and implementation?
Yes, and yes. When we were first imagining what Archetype would be, one of our starting points was a world in which every company is a technology company. What is our role in a world in which every company is a technology company? And then we sort of started to get into it, and I was like, wait a minute, every company is a technology company except our company? We're not a technology company. And so that was a big, like, I think we need to rethink this bit kind of moment for us. And you will see over the years ahead, us really pivoting toward being a much more tech forward company, not in terms of the clients that we represent, because we represent some of the most important technology companies in the world, and we're so proud of that portfolio. But we ourselves, I would not call us a technology company. And I think there isn't an agency out there yet who has nailed this. And I think maybe we'll have maybe it'll be us. Maybe it won't be, but I hope that it will be. And I think, fast forward for us in a few years' time, and I believe that our client experiences and our employee experiences will be deeply rooted in technology. And I think we, as agencies, we haven't stopped and stepped back and said, wait a minute, what is the best possible customer experience? Today, if you're a client of pretty much any agency around the world, you need to go to 5 or 6 different places to try to find all of the information that you need about your agency. I have a crisis that's breaking. I need someone's phone number. Where is that invoice? I need to make sure that that PO has been paid. Where is the plan for whatever? What is the latest on the creative? Right now, people hunt and peck, right? We are forcing our customers to hunt and peck for the information that they need, not on purpose. We never did that on purpose, but we, some of it's in email, maybe some of it's in Slack or Teams. Some of it is on a text, some of it is in a Google Doc. It's just all over the place. And I think, boy, when I had that sort of moment, when I realized what we were doing to our customers, I was like, what is wrong with us? If my bank made me go and hunt and pack for where my last statement was, how to reach them, what their branch office hours were, I would fire them. And yet here we are, not even consciously doing that just because it's always been, right? Technologies are getting layered on. And, you know, in the name of being helpful, I think we've made things quite complicated. So we're trying to take a giant back and say, how do we root the customer experience in technology? What does the user interface for our customer look like in the future? And so we're sort of at ground zero on that today. We have a lot of work to do on doing that, but we just want an ease of experience, you know, that is really rooted in great user interface. Like, let's take a page from the book of the clients that we work with every day who have created truly exceptional user interfaces for their customers. We need to do the same. So I think that's going to be a big push for us that will take us, you know, a few years to get right. But you'll see us doing that. And we want to do the same on the employee side. It's very much the same. You need to find the employee handbook, how to enter your time, what your hours are in a team. Like, you're going to go to 4 or 5 different places to do that. Let us center that and put it in one place for you, where it's really easy to access, where the interface is very elegant, and where you always know whatever it is that you need to know in that given moment. So, like, and of course, layering into that insights, right, that data and technology can deliver to our people and our customers, and to the and back to the agency in terms of, like, hey, it's time to do, you know, this company is at this stage, you know, and maybe it's time to check in with them to make sure we don't want to kind of reinvent this program because it's been in place for 3 years, you know, whatever those insights are. We need to be taking advantage of the data that we sit on top of every day that right now just lays fallow, you know, of course, in a very kind of privacy centric way. But I think we can be ever more helpful to our clients, not only by making their life easier, but also by delivering insights to them that we can see that maybe perhaps they can't. So you'll see us really pushing a lot further in this area in a few years ahead.
Well, that will certainly be worth watching. I would agree with you. I don't think any agency has really nailed the use of technology, whether internally or externally. So we're coming to the close. I think we have around 5 minutes or so left. So let me ask you what might be the final question, but it's a question I've wanted to ask for a while. And you referred to Archetype, of course, as an 18-month-old agency.
Yeah.
Because we know that Archetype is the product of a union of 2 agencies, Byte and Text 100, which go back quite a long time, right? I think 30 years in Tech's case, I think, or maybe slightly less than that. How important was it to rebrand, to come up with a new identity? Because I assume there's always some kind of tension between the benefits of legacy and the kind of opportunity of starting with something like a clean slate.
Yeah. Yes. We didn't, I would say we were very thoughtful about this, but at the same time, I knew from the moment I said yes to this role, I knew it was something that we would do. And there were a couple of reasons for that. One was a cultural reason. I didn't want there to ever be a sense of winners and losers, right? Like, if the Byte became Text 100 or the Text became Byte, you know, I think no matter what you say, no matter what words you use, you are indicating that there has been a winner and that there has been a loser. And in this case, there hasn't been. And so I think that was, you know, in the back, I was always in the back of my mind, because culture is so important to me, that I wanted to be very, very sensitive to that. But I think there's also this, like, incredible ambition that we have as a team. We were very intentional about the name, and we want to live our lives every day to try to live up to that name, because to be the Archetype is really around setting the standard for the global agency of the future. And, you know, that is the level of ambition that we have. We want to be the Archetype for the global agency of the future. And so I think look, we were going to rebrand because it felt like the right thing to do from a cultural standpoint, but we really wanted to make a very clear statement to the world about how ambitious we are. We wanted to us, this is not a rebrand. This is a rethink, right? When you have an agency that's been around for 25, 30 years, sometimes it's a good idea to take stock and say, what are we retaining and what are we creating? And we felt that there was truly an opportunity to create a new kind of agency, one that didn't exist in the world, that was this sort of, that sort of like Goldilocks moment of like, not too small, not too big, not too impersonal, not too boutique. We just really feel like there's this sweet spot that exists in the world that no one is occupying. So why shouldn't we? And by the way, while we're at it, let us begin to show other agencies, how we're reinventing ourselves, and perhaps that will inspire them to rethink small bits of their business as well. All along, Archetype has been not just about our agency, but about the entire industry. We wanted to drive the entire industry forward. I feel like we've been stuck and we've been doing a lot of frosting, right? A lot of sort of things around the margins and the edges. We wanted to reinvent it from the center. And by the way, doing that while also running the agency every single day and not missing a step is no mean feat. We joke about, rebuilding the plane while we're flying it. That is kind of what it feels like every day. But I won't be satisfied, to be honest with you. My ambition will not be fulfilled until I believe that we have helped to drive the entire industry forward. And so we mean it when we say it, when we talk about Archetype and what it is that we're trying to achieve. We have so much work to do, but that's really exciting. It's all green field, right? We're trying to really rethink, and we're not going to get it all right. We're going to make mistakes along the way, and I think that's part of why being nimble is so important. The one thing we always want to get right is making sure that this is a place that people love to work, and that our clients believe that they are more successful because of our partnership.
Well, I mean, I think those are very important ambitions, and we will watch Archetype's progress with keen interest. And I hope you get some time off over the holiday season, because I have no doubt that like anyone in this industry, you've earned it after the events of this year. Helena, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. It has been a real pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you so much.